that satisfying moment when the crystal champagne flute slipped from her manicured fingers and shattered on the marble floor. That was when I knew every sleepless night had been worth it. My name is Elena Mitchell, and I am 62 years old. I spent 35 years as a school librarian in a small town in Ohio. I raised my daughter alone after my husband passed away when she was just 7, and on her wedding day, I destroyed the most powerful family in our county. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a quiet librarian became the woman who burned down a dynasty of lies. It started 8 months ago on a cold February evening. My daughter Amanda came to visit me, her cheeks flushed from the winter wind, her eyes sparkling with something I had not seen in years. She was 31, a hard-working nurse at the county hospital, kind and gentle like her father had been. "Mom," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "I met someone, I poured her tea. Who is he?" "His name is Bradley Whitmore. He is a lawyer at his family's firm downtown. His family owns half the real estate in this county." I felt my stomach tighten. The Whites. Everyone in our town knew that name. Richard Whitmore was a real estate developer who had built shopping centers, apartment complexes, and office buildings across 3 counties. His wife, Victoria Whitmore, was the kind of woman who chaired charity galas and looked down her nose at anyone who did not belong to her country club. "How did you meet him?" I asked carefully. "At the hospital. He came to visit a client who had been in a car accident. We started talking in the cafeteria. He asked for my number and Amanda smiled. He is different, Mom. He is kind. He listens. He does not care that I am just a nurse, just a nurse." Those words bothered me. Why would she even need to say that? Over the following weeks, Amanda talked about Bradley constantly. He took her to fancy restaurants. He bought her flowers. He introduced her to his friends at the country club. She was falling in love. And I wanted to be happy for her, but something kept nagging at me. I met Bradley for the first time in March. Amanda brought him to Sunday dinner. He was handsome. I will give him that tall, dark hair, expensive suit, even on a casual Sunday. He shook my hand firmly and looked me in the eye. "Mrs. Mitchell, Amanda has told me so much about you. It is an honor to meet you." His words were polished, rehearsed like a salesman closing a deal. During dinner, he talked about his work, his family's business, his plans to expand the firm. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and tell me first, where did you hear this from? Write it in the comments, because what happens next most people won't believe. Asked me questions about my career at the library, but his eyes wandered. He checked his phone twice, and when Amanda got up to get dessert from the kitchen, he looked around my small house with an expression I recognized all too well. It was the look of someone calculating the value of everything they saw and finding it insufficient. But I said nothing because Amanda was happy, and that was all that mattered. 2 months later, Bradley proposed. Amanda called me crying tears of joy. "Mom, he asked me to marry him at the Whitmore Estate Inn. Their garden, his whole family was there." I said yes. I congratulated her. I told her I was thrilled and I was partly. But that night I could not sleep. Something about the Whitmores felt wrong. It was like walking into a beautiful house and smelling something rotten behind the walls. The engagement party was in June. It was held at the Whitmore Estate, a sprawling mansion on 20 acres of manicured lawn. There were 200 guests, catering staff in white jackets, a string quartet playing classical music. I wore my best dress, a navy blue number I had bought for my nephew's wedding 5 years ago. Amanda had offered to buy me something new, but I refused. I was not going to pretend to be something I was not. When I arrived, Victoria Whitmore greeted me at the door. She was in her late 50s, blonde hair, perfectly styled, diamonds glittering at her throat. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Elena, so glad you could make it. Amanda has told us you worked at a library for 35 years. How quaint. Well, make yourself comfortable. The bar is over there." She turned away before I could respond, already greeting another guest with far more enthusiasm. I felt small, dismissed, but I swallowed my pride and found my seat. The party was elegant, expensive, and completely foreign to me. I watched Amanda navigate the crowd, trying so hard to fit in, laughing at jokes I knew she did not understand, agreeing with opinions I knew she did not share. Bradley stayed by her side, his hand on her lower back like he was guiding her or controlling her. Then the toasts began. Richard Whitmore took the microphone first. He talked about his son, his pride in the family name, his expectations for the future. Then Victoria took over. "I want to say a few words about my future daughter-in-law," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness that felt like poison. "Amanda is a lovely girl, so hardworking, so dedicated. She practically raised herself from what I understand. There were uncomfortable laughs. I gripped my napkin. Victoria continued, when Bradley first told me he was dating a nurse, I will admit I was concerned. We had always imagined him with someone from a certain background, but Amanda has proven that hard work can overcome humble beginnings. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. Humble beginnings, like we were something to be overcome. Victoria raised her glass to Amanda. May she rise to the occasion. Everyone applauded. I looked at Amanda. Her smile was frozen, her eyes glistening with held-back tears. She knew exactly what had just happened. She had been publicly put in her place, reminded that she would never truly belong, but nobody else seemed to notice, or they pretended not to. That night after the party, I drove home in silence. I could not stop thinking about Victoria's words, her condescending smile, the way she had humiliated my daughter while pretending to compliment her. And I made a decision. I was going to find out everything about the Whitmore family, because people who worked that hard to make others feel small were usually hiding something, and I was going to find out what. I started small. I used the research skills I had developed over 35 years as a librarian. I searched public records, property databases, court filings. I spent hours at the county clerk's office pulling documents that most people did not know existed, and I found things. I found that Whitmore Development had 3 pending lawsuits from contractors who claimed they had never been paid. I found tax liens that had been quietly settled. I found building permits that had been approved under suspicious circumstances, but those were just business problems. What I found next was personal. In July, I was having coffee at a diner in the next town over. I went there sometimes when I wanted to think without running into people I knew. And that is when I saw him, Richard Whitmore, with a woman who was not his wife. She was younger, maybe 35, with red hair and a nervous laugh. They sat in a corner booth holding hands across the table. He kissed her before they left, and she called him Richie in a voice that spoke of years of intimacy. I noted the license plate of her car. And that night I hired a private investigator. His name was Gerald Novak. He was retired police, now working independently from a small office above a hardware store. He did not ask why I wanted to know these things. He just nodded and quoted his price. 2 weeks later he called me. "Mrs. Mitchell, I have information. Can you come to my office?" I was there within the hour. Gerald spread documents across his desk. Richard Whitmore has been involved with a woman named Sarah Palmer for 12 years. They have 2 children together, a boy 10 and a girl 8. He pays for their house, their schools, their everything. His wife does not know. My hands were shaking. 12 years, that is not all. Gerald pulled out more papers. Whitmore Development is in serious financial trouble. They have been shuffling money between accounts to hide losses. There is an investigation pending with the state attorney's office. They have been bribing inspectors to approve substandard construction. 3 of their apartment buildings have failed safety inspections that were covered up. I thought about all those families living in those buildings, not knowing that the walls might not hold, that the foundations might be cracked, that safety had been sacrificed for profit. How long until this becomes public? Gerald shrugged. Could be months, could be years. These things move slow, but when it breaks, it is going to be big. I took everything he gave me. I paid him, and I went home to decide what to do. For weeks I wrestled with my conscience. If I told Amanda before the wedding, she might not believe me. She might think I was trying to sabotage her happiness. She might choose Bradley over me. But if I said nothing, she would marry into a family built on fraud and lies. And when everything collapsed, she would be trapped. I talked to my oldest friend, a retired teacher named Dorothy. "Eleanor," she said, "if you tell her now, you might lose her. But if you do not tell her, you might lose her anyway. At least if you speak up, you give her the choice." She was right. But I still could not bring myself to do it, because Amanda was so happy, because she believed she had found love, because sometimes hope is more precious than truth. And then the night before the rehearsal dinner, something happened that made my decision for me. I had stopped by Amanda's apartment to drop off a family photo she wanted for the wedding display. She was not home, but I had a key. I let myself in, placed the photo on the counter, and was about to leave when I heard voices in the hallway. Bradley's voice and another man's. I froze. I should have left, but something made me stay. The door opened. Bradley walked in with his friend Marcus, both of them laughing. They did not see me standing behind the kitchen doorway. "So you are really going through with it," Marcus said. "Marrying the little nurse," Bradley scoffed. "It is perfect. Amanda is so grateful to be with someone like me. She will never question anything. She will never cause problems, and she has a stable income, which we need right now while the firm sorts out the cash flow issues." "And what about love?" Bradley laughed. "Love is for people who cannot afford better options." Amanda is a good investment, low maintenance, easily impressed, and she will give my mother grandchildren who actually work for a living. Balance out the family reputation when everything comes out. I felt sick. Every word was like a knife in my heart. My daughter was not a person to him. She was a strategy, a cover, an investment. Marcus laughed. Your mother hates her, though. Bradley shrugged. My mother hates everyone who is not rich. She will get over it once Amanda starts producing grandkids and keeps her mouth shut at parties. They moved to the living room. I slipped out the back door, my whole body trembling with rage. That night I did not sleep. I sat in my living room surrounded by the documents Gerald had given me. And I planned I would not tell Amanda privately. She would not believe me. She would think I was being overprotective, jealous, unable to let go. No, I needed to show her, I needed to show everyone, and I knew exactly when to do it. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at the Whitmore estate. 300 guests, a tent the size of an airplane hangar, flowers imported from Holland, a 7-course dinner. The Witters had spared no expense. After all, appearances were everything. I arrived early. I wore black, which Amanda had noticed. Mom, why are you not wearing the blue dress we picked out? I hugged her. You look beautiful, sweetheart. I will explain later, I promise. She was confused but too busy to press the issue, and I took my seat and waited. The ceremony was beautiful. Amanda walked down the aisle, radiant in white. Bradley stood at the altar, his smile perfect and empty. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, performing emotion she did not feel, and I sat in the front row, my heart breaking, my purse heavy with documents. They exchanged vows, they kissed, everyone applauded, and then we moved to the reception. The toasts began after dinner. Richard spoke first, celebrating his son's success. Marcus made jokes about bachelor parties and settling down, and then Victoria took the microphone. I would like to say a few words about family, she began. Family is everything to us Witters. We take care of our own, we protect our own. And today we welcome Amanda into our family. She paused, looking at my daughter with that same condescending smile. I know. Amanda comes from a different world than ours. Simpler, more modest, but we believe in giving people chances to improve themselves, and I am sure Amanda will do her best to live up to the Whitmore name. The crowd laughed politely. Amanda's smile faltered and something inside me snapped. I stood up. Victoria noticed me. Mrs. Mitchell, did you want to say something? Yes, I said. I walked toward the stage. Yes, I do. There was confused murmuring. Amanda looked worried. Bradley looked annoyed. But I did not stop. I climbed onto the platform and took the microphone from Victoria's surprised hands. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ivory Mitchell. I am Amanda's mother and I have been a librarian for 35 years. Silence. You know what librarians do. We research. We find information that people try to hide. We uncover truth that has been buried. Victoria stepped forward. This is highly inappropriate, is it? I looked at her directly. More inappropriate than humiliating my daughter in front of 200 people. More inappropriate than calling her humble beginnings something to overcome. Victoria's face went pale. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folder. Let me tell you about the Whitmore family. Let me tell you what I found. Richard Whitmore stood up. That is enough. No, I said, it is not. I held up the first document. Richard Whitmore has had a mistress named Sarah Palmer for 12 years. They have 2 children together, a 10-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. He has been supporting them with company money, while his wife sat at charity gay talking about family values. Gasps, Victoria's hand flew to her throat. Richard's face went purple. I continued. Whitmore Development is under investigation for fraud. They have been bribing building inspectors. 3 of their apartment complexes have safety violations that were covered up. People are living in buildings that could collapse. The crowd erupted. People pulled out phones. Some guests started leaving. I looked at Bradley, and you. I heard what you said about my daughter. That she is an investment, Lumontunance, easily impressed that you are marrying her for her income while your firm sorts out cash flow problems. Bradley's mouth opened and closed. Amanda was staring at him, horror dawning in her eyes. I put down the microphone. I handed the folder to a guest I knew was a journalist for the local paper. The truth is there, I said. Do with it what you will. And I walked off the stage. The next few hours were chaos. Victoria collapsed into hysterics. Richard tried to confiscate my documents, but there were already copies spreading through the crowd. Bradley chased after Amanda, who had run out of the tent in tears. I found her in the garden sitting on a bench, her wedding dress pulled around her like a deflated cloud. Mom, her voice was broken. Is it true, all of it? I sat beside her. I took her hand. Yes, sweetheart, all of it, she cried. She cried for an hour. And when she finally stopped, she looked at me with red eyes and said something I will never forget. "You saved me." The wedding never finished. Guests left in confusion and shock. The journalist published the story 3 days later. Within a week, the state attorney announced formal charges against Richard Watmer. The fraud investigation accelerated. 2 inspectors were arrested. Victoria filed for divorce. The news of the secret family broke her completely. She moved to Florida and has not been seen since. Bradley came to Amanda's apartment once trying to explain, trying to salvage something. She did not let him in. She did not need to. For a while, Amanda was angry at me, not for telling the truth but for keeping it until the wedding. She needed time to process, time to heal. 3 months later, she came to my house. "Mom," she said, "I understand now." "Understand what? Why you waited? If you had told me before, I would not have believed you. I needed to see it myself. I needed to see who they really were." I hugged her. "I was so scared of losing you. You could never lose me, Mom. You are the only one who has always told me the truth." That was 2 years ago. Today, Amanda is engaged again to a doctor she met at the hospital, a quiet man named James who looks at her like she is the most precious thing in the world. He asked for my blessing before he proposed. He comes to Sunday dinner and helps with the dishes. I met his mother last month. She is a retired teacher like Dorothy. She hugged me when we first met and said, "Thank you for raising such a wonderful woman." Richard Watmer was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His company was dissolved. The families in those apartment buildings were compensated. Some of them wrote to thank me. They did not know who I was, but they had heard about the librarian who spoke up. I keep those letters in a box in my closet. Last week, Amanda came to visit with James. She brought news. "Mom," she said, her eyes shining, "I am pregnant." I cried. 62 years old, and I cried like a child, because my daughter was going to be a mother, and she was going to do it right with someone who loved her in a family built on truth. That night after they left, I sat in my rocking chair by the window. I looked at the stars and thought about everything that had happened. I thought about Victoria Watmer with her diamonds and her condescension and her empty life in Florida. I thought about Richard in his prison cell, finally paying for his lies. I thought about Bradley, who tried to use my daughter and ended up with nothing. And I thought about Amanda, my beautiful, strong, resilient daughter, who survived it all and came out stronger. I learned something important. Silence does not protect anyone, it only protects the liars. And the truth, even when it is hard, even when it costs everything, is always worth telling. Because in the end, the only legacy that matters is the one built on honesty. I am 62 years old. I spent my life surrounded by books, organizing knowledge, helping others find what they were looking for. I never expected to become the woman who destroyed a dynasty. But when they threatened my daughter, when they tried to use her and discard her, I discovered something about myself. A mother's love is the most powerful force on earth, and a librarian with research skills is more dangerous than any army. If you are listening to this, if you are in a situation where powerful people are trying to make you feel small, remember my story. You do not need money to fight back. You do not need connections. You just need the courage to find the truth and speak it out loud, because the truth always wins. If you enjoyed the story, hit like, drop a comment and subscribe for more story like this. Thanks for watching. God bless you.